picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, good morning and welcome back to week 2 of the Katinga build, the 350 scale Katinga build. And, sorry, let me close that up for a bit. We are well underway. All I've got left to do really is the back half. So we're more than halfway done. We'll be splitting my attention this week because getting orders for the Enterprise D template sets, so I've got to be cranking those out. Those are going over very well right now. A lot of advance orders, and I've even had people ask me about masks for the Katinga that isn't even done yet, so that's a good sign. But as for what I've done today, I've put a coat of clear on the boom that I've got done. Now this does two things. First of all, it accentuates the colors, makes them stand out, gets the surface ready for decals, and also makes it very much more ready for washes. Because then you can wipe them, you can put a wash on and wipe it off, and it will only stick where you want it to. If you do that over flat paint, it'll have a tendency to suck into all of the areas. Anybody who's stained wood knows this. If you put stain over a piece of wood, it'll suck into all of the pores, and it might come out unevenly and blotchy unless you put a sanding sealer over it first, which gives it a more uniform surface to put your stain on. So this is basically what this is. It's a paint sealer. Clear coat over it. Now, of course, this isn't the final coat. You'll put a flat coat on it when you're done, and that'll make it look so much better. But this is a necessary step for, like I said, for putting in washes and for putting decals down on it. Also helps protect the paint if you set it down on something and you're worried about dinging up the paint. It's of course, it's always nice to have a towel or a piece of foam or something to set it down on, but this will give you that extra measure of protection. And working on, let's get on to what I'm doing today. I am doing some touching up of this section. I've got a couple of bits of the dark iron to put on here, and then I will take the masks off that I've got on here already and get it to the same point as that other piece. By that I mean to go ahead and have that clear coat on there. Welcome back. It is Tuesday early evening, and I'm getting ready to close up, but it's been a good day, good productive day. It doesn't look like it from what you see here, but I have in front of me, I think, everything I need to do the 3 colors for the top side, this top side of the Katinga. And I've chosen my 3 colors. I used these on the boom and the head, so it's not exactly new news. Don't always trust the lid colors. Go like this and look at the actual paint colors, and you will see the 3 differences. Now, and these are, like I said, these are in the celery green family. These are not in the cool greens. But this is what I'm going to be using for the lightest color. You can see here there's basically 3 colors. There is this lightest, let me get a pointy device. There is this lightest color, there's a mid-range color, and then there's a darker color. If you wanted to throw another hat in the ring, you could say there's also 2 darker shades of that in elsewhere, but I'm not going to bother you with that right now. For my purposes, there are 3 colors: Uno, Dos, and Tres. And for those 3 colors, this is what I'm going to be using. I'll try to get it off so you don't see a glare here from the light. The lightest one is actually Sky. The second one is Cockpit Green, and the third one is the NATO Green. And the NATO Green is what you'll see the most of. That is the color that I used up on the head and the boom and all of that. But using these 3 colors, I've come up with, I think, a method and a way to paint these. And I've gone ahead and I've put the lightest color on the Sky color on the areas that's gonna be needed. And what we're doing is the old paint and cover method, where we're going to paint these areas and then we're going to cover them up with a mask, and then paint the other color that goes on top of it, cover that up, and then paint the third one. Well, that works only but so far, because these guys here that stick out on the top, they are the top level of altitude. They're raised up. Well, I need to paint this whiter color, or this lightest color behind these guys. So what I want to do is I paint these, mask these shapes off, and then I can spray the rest of this. And that's what last thing I'm going to do for this evening, to get it ready so that it's drying overnight and I can start ahead while I am planning the Aztecs for the bottom half of the hull. I can be painting the top half and letting it dry between coats while I'm working on stuff. So let me get these guys masked and this color sprayed on it, and we'll be ready to button it up then. Okay, and now I've got the masks over just those raised plates, so I need to spray around them with this lightest color. Good morning, welcome back. It is Wednesday, and I have let the lightest green color here dry overnight. Next step is to put masks over them to protect them and spray the medium green color, which is going to be the cockpit green. Then we repeat that process. We let those masks rest, and then we spray the darkest color, which is going to be the NATO green, over top of that. And while that's all going on, I am developing the mask for the bottom. I'm working on I've already got the light, or the whitest color, the lightest green, this guy. I've got that mapped out for the bottom here, and now I am doing the second layer, and then basically you do the light layer, you do the next layer, then everything else gets the darkest green, and then you go back in and touch up things. So things are progressing. And then I've got another stage worth of work here, because there are some masks to go over this lightest buff to protect it from the color that goes on top of it. And similarly, there is some work to do on the warp nacelles, but it's moving along pretty quickly. So let's get these guys masked and get ready to paint the next level. Okay, I'm starting to put down the light, the masks over the lightest yellow or the lightest green, and I thought once and then I thought twice about this. I went ahead and took these masks back off because I need to mask this entire area, and that's just adding a layer of unnecessariness to it. I'm going to cover them up again with the new masks, but that way I'm not putting vinyl on top of vinyl. So I'll show you in a minute what I was talking about, but look how nice and clean those came out. Pretty work. Alrighty then, I've got all of the lightest of the three greens, which is the sky green, or it's just called sky, but it's green. I've got that area all masked off for the whole top of the secondary hull, the back half, I guess. So now what I want to do is give it a good spritzing with cockpit green, which is my second layer O color. And then once that has dried, I can go back and mask those areas off and spray the darker green on. So it's a simple three-step process, but let's get it underway. Alrighty, now you start to see some familiar green on the back end of this Katinga. So we let this dry. We let this dry for a couple of hours at least. Maybe even more. I can go work on the templates for the bottom now, but this has got a good base on it. No sense covering painting over where the vinyl goes. So I don't have to cover that as forcefully. But now there are areas of this color that I need to maintain before I put the darker color over that. So watching the paint dry. Okay, we're ready to attack this bottom now. That's right, that sounded dirty. Gonna put on the lightest gray or lightest green colors. That would be, and there's not that much on the bottom of the hull that is that whitest color, just this area right in here. So let's put that stuff down and let that be drying. Okay, the lightest color is down, and I did cheat. I did go over it very lightly with just one pass coat of misting of white on it, just to brighten it up a little bit, see how it works, see how it looks. So now we let that dry, and then we come back and mask it. Okay, one more task before we close down for the evening, and that is to spray the bottom side here with an overall coating of the cockpit green now that I've got the lightest version blocked off, and that has had a chance to dry. So let me pull out the cockpit green and give this a good once over. Welcome back, kids. It is Thursday. Gonna get a lot done today. Today's gonna be one of those days where you're just gonna see leaps and bounds of things happening. Overnight, I have let the medium green, which is NATO green, I have let that seep in and dry and securely bond itself to the surface. And today I'm going to, first thing, I'm going to cover up the areas that I want to keep this color, and then we are going to get ready to spray on the darker color. And as a roundup for the day's work, I think I'm going to be able to get these two halves together. We'll see. Don't get too ambitious, but we'll see. So the first thing I need to do is to clean this area up of all the stuff that I don't need to be working on right away, because this thing is starting to take up all the real estate here on the table, and I need to clear some of it off. Alright, if you can see, I've got the areas blocked that I wish to keep the cockpit green, and I'm going to do the same to the bottom, and then get ready to start spraying the NATO green over top of all of it. That should be good and fun. Okay then, it took a little while, but I've got all of the cockpit green masking on the bottom of the hull. I went ahead and glued these parts in because we know why not. One thing to do before I spray the dark green on here is I just need to run some masking tape over this area here to keep it from getting any overspray. And then we'll be ready to mix up a big old vat of the NATO green. Okay, I'm spraying the top coat on now, and I just wanted to stop and take a second to show you the difference. You'll see it once I take the masks off, but the subtle, it's these two colors here aren't as different from each other as they are from that brighter, the whiter color, but you'll be able to tell, like I said, once I get the plates off, once I get the masks off. But wanted to stop and catch it in midstream. Alrighty, it's later on Thursday afternoon, and I am just cleaning up a few things here. Get ready to take the masks off of all of this. I went ahead, and even though they are red, I went and put some more clear red over top of the warp engine or the impulse engine covers, because when you put the cool white lights behind it, it looks like a pink nightmare. And I don't know why. I don't know why they did that. In the other instances where there is an LED going behind a red piece, like for both of the photons and for the tower, they used warm LEDs, and the warm LEDs seem to work just fine. But the two that are designated for the impulse engines are cool whites, and they just look too blame pink when you put the lights on. So let's clean up what I've done here. Working on this part, what I'm going to do is take all the tape and the masks and everything off and see what the results have looked like. Well, that's just beautiful. That's pretty. Now it looks awfully stark and awfully clean, and yes, it's going to do that until you get it grimed up. I have one more stage to do, and that is these highest plates here. And they have to be masked off, but what I want to do is spray this with a clear coat first to kind of lock everything in and make it easier to deal with. And then I will go through and mask these like these stages here and these ones here, these upper plates. They all need to be painted yet, and I can't wait to get to that. That's another pretty. Yeah, there's the bottom without any masks on. And yeah, there's some touch-up. There's a weird thing that happens every once in a while. I'll be putting the vinyl down, and then if I pushed it and I kind of smushed it over to the side, you can see it kind of looks like, here's an example, kind of looks like bad printing where I goofed and the shape is there, but it's just a little bit off, like it was off center. So I'm just going to go through with a tiny brush, touch up, clean up some of these more egregious ones, because once I put the wash on there, the yeah, it's going to be a wash to grime it up a little bit. That's going to take care of 95% of the problems that you might see, but that looks sweet as all get out. So let me do a tiny bit of touch up, and then I'll hit this with the satin clear. Well, this is fun. While the other in the other room, the big halves of the ship are drying from the clear coat, I'm playing with the impulse engine exhaust engine light ups, and I'm taking this. This is just a piece of plain old screen patch for patching screen doors or screen windows. And what I did was I lightly misted it with CA to kind of lock all of it in place so that I can cut it into smaller pieces and it won't fray. And then what I did was cut it to shape and poke it in from the back. And here, I'll do it as an example. Here is the empty one. And I have found that if you take the inserts, now I also put another coat, I think I may have mentioned this, I put another coat of red, to me a red clear over top of these just to make them a little bit redder. But let me show you how easy this is. I need to cut this one out. There, it's down. I just put it in from the bottom and then took the Q-tip and pushed it in from the top, and it went in just fine. And now I'm ready to put it over the hole here. Now I have also painted red over that LED to try to maximize the amount of red that's coming out of here. And let's hook some power up to it and see how it looks. Hey, that's not too bad. I think we finally countered all of it. Between the red on the, because you can see how pink that bulb is. I mean, you can see how pink that is. But between the red on the bulb and the red in here, I think we have countered all of that. Well, I need to stick it back down. Hold on. Gotta use both hands to do it. But there you go. And I got a nice little grate over it. Okay, I'm working on the top layer now, and I've made up a little series of these guys. And they're not quite as accurate as I like them to be, but I'm going to be providing some short, straight strips to kind of fill in around. So now I've got to do over here what I've done here, and that is to put some tape around it to catch the overspray. Almost went ahead and painted this without putting the camera on it. I'm just doing the last bit of shapes in here, getting them all the right color. Got to do the same thing over here, and then we will be done with all of the painting on the top of this hull, which was my goal for tonight. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, dogs and cats, children of all ages. That's a lot of different colors, but actually it's only 3 colors. It looks like a quilt, looks like a patchwork, looks like a flag of the Klingon nation. But once you put a unifying stain on this, a wash on this, it'll pull it all together. But look at that, that's just glorious. That turned out better than I had a right to expect. I don't think I deserved that. But that's where we're going to leave this tonight. And if you can see over here, I've got the engines started work on those. And I need to do a little bit of cleanup of this work area and then call it a night. Good morning, welcome back. It's Friday. It's my favorite work day of the week because it is, as you know, the last work day of the week. And it's time to take all of these pretty parts and start putting them together. It's a wonderful collection of pretty parts, and now we need to make a pretty ship out of it. The goal today is to get everything together and get it to a point where I'm ready to do the weathering on it, or maybe even do that. Who knows? But to make all of this work, I need to start. Well, there's one last area I need to work on. One last area, and that is this front, the front of the back. The front of the back, I need to do a little bit more detail painting on, and then I can start making this come together, as it were. The plan is to get as much of it together in one piece as possible, and then do a wash on it, then the decals, then wash, and then a flat coat. Let me see. Now I think what the best thing to do would be to get it all together, put decals on it, and then another clear coat to seal the decals in, and then a wash to weather it, and then I'm going to add like the tiny detail pieces, because when I am putting a wash over this and wiping it down, if it's got these little antenna and stuff sticking out, that's going to make it difficult to get in around with a rag or a Q-tip or whatever. So the last thing we'll do before we put the final flat coat on it will be to add the tiny detail pieces. Okay, so now I am working on the impulse deck here. Sorry, the impulse slash rear photon chunk here. And I want to show you the reason why I put the fiber fill in. Now, you know, I'm going to go through this whole song and dance again about how cameras make LEDs look a little more sourcey than they actually are. Hopefully you can still see what I'm talking about. The engine on the left has no fiber fill in it, and you can see that bulb pretty easily. The engine on the right has fiber fill in it, and it is tougher to see the actual bulb. Yeah, you do see the hot spot there, but you don't see the actual bulb as easily as you do with the engine that has no fiber fill in it. So this one has already been glued down. I'm going to pop this one off and stuff it full of fiber fill and put it back in. But back piece is looking pretty good. I don't know whether I'm going to use that cover or not. Probably just leave it off. Okay, so I've got the masks on for this last major part of the ship. What I've done is covered up the areas that I want to keep the buff color, and now I'm going to spray on a bit of the desert yellow, and then that'll give me a nice two-tone effect here. And once I take these masks off, one last coat of clear, and I am ready for some major construction. Okay, I've got the desert yellow sprayed over top of it, and I went in with a NATO brown, just did a little bit of shading, just a little, nothing too much, but just because I'm not going to be able to get back to this area really after I start putting all the little greablies on there, so I want to do some pre-shading on that. Next stop is to take these masks off and clear coat everything. Okay, it's time to take the masks off of this front, and it's not just these masks, but the masks that I put on way back at the beginning that were meant to block off the windows from getting paint on them, and re-expose the dark lines of the dark iron paint that I put on here. I need to use both hands, so let me peel all this stuff off, and I'll be right back. And there you be. You can see the dark lines from the very back from the very beginning, and the two tones of the tan, the two-tone tan, tanny two-tone. So now we're getting ready to put some stuff together. I want to hit this with a clear coat first, just to keep it from getting banged up, and then we will be ready to do some final construction. I got to do some wiring first. I got to put in some lights, and then final construction. Okay, I'm getting ready to mix up a little bit of the old 5-minute, 15, I guess this is 5-minute epoxy for two things. One, I want to put some in that joint back in there just to reinforce it, because I think it needs it. It's a clumsy joint. It doesn't really interlock with anything. It just kind of butts up against. So a little bit of strength and assistance there would be welcome. And the other thing is to do the mating surfaces on the warp nacelles. That one is a very good joint, but it's kind of hard to get glue down into. So I'm going to put some slow cure epoxy in it and do both of those at the same time. Okay, I'm at the next logical thing to do, which is to join these two together. But to do that, I need to put a slow, and I mean slow acting epoxy on all of the posts here, all of these guys, and then I will, after it's clamped together, I can go along the seam with the with the MEK, or the 10X, the liquid glue. But first I need to make sure all of these guys have some glue on them, and I'm going to go ahead and mix up a little bit of the 15-minute epoxy and dab that on there. I feel like I've done arm-to-arm combat with this thing. It's like trying to herd cats. It was trying to play the bagpipe. It was trying to, oh, I don't know, arm wrestle an octopus. It fought me every way, trying to get all of the little tiny joints all the way around it to match up. I'm glad I used the slower acting epoxy, because if I'd tried to use anything quicker, it would have just set up on me. So I'm going to let this epoxy cure for maybe 15 minutes to a half hour. I'm not trying to rush. I'm trying to get through without rushing, because we're coming up on Friday afternoon and I don't want to drag this into another week's report. The next thing to do is, after this sets up, is to attach the boom to the front, and I still have these parts here that go around the back, and there's some perimeter stuff that still needs glued, but we're getting down to the tininess, the tiny things. So wish me luck. I try to get this done today. Alrighty, we're down to it. It's time to attach the boom. Time to lower the boom. Time to attach the boom to the back half of the ship. And wish me luck. Hope it's not going to be as much of a wrestling match as getting the last part done was. Okay, she's on the stand and all lit up. I still have the vinyl over the bottom light, so that's why you're not seeing that. But there you go. This one's a lot brighter than this one, but I can clean that out. These seem to be working, these spotlights. We got lights back here, everybody's happy. Got lights on that side, everybody's happy. Got lights on the back of the neck there. Lights in the tower. Lights in the tower. This is not glued down, this top part of the bridge. I mean, that whole thing is not glued down yet. So there's some light leakage that will be, sorry, zoom out. There's some light leakage here because this is not glued down. This is the quandary I'm in. I am 90% done because I still haven't decaled it. I still haven't weathered it. I still haven't flat coated it yet, and I still have some greeblies to go on here. So do I call it finished for the week? No, I'm going to, there's enough rough edges and patching that I need to do that I can carry this into next week. It will only be the first maybe couple of days of next week, but then I have some smaller projects I can finish out that week with. So this front window has turned out pretty good. These guys, for their bulb being back here and shining on them, they don't look half bad. I was afraid they were going to end up being as dim as these guys. But oh, there's a light leak there to take care of right up there. And I'm assuming there's going to be one on the other side of that. But yeah, this looks good. Let me do a white balance check here. Hold on. Okay, let's try that. There's enough work left on this that we can stretch this into another week, even if we just finish it off. But that will allow me to spend more time showing the weathering and all of that. But yeah, very happy with how that turned out. Good place to leave it for the week. Okay, I've got the overhead light back on. But there's some stuff that needs to get done yet, so I don't want to call it finished. But it's darn close. I love those impulse engines. Turned out pretty darn sweet. And you'll see these are masked still because I want to paint a gray area over this and then keep these guys masked off to do the gunmetal that I've got in there. So yeah, pretty sweet. But look at that paint job. Love it. Okay, I'm getting ready to pull the plug on this, so to speak, both literally and figuratively. So I figured I'd give it a roundabout the horn there so that you could see the Katinga in its full glory. Got the little lighting, blinking beacon, and there's one underneath the belly that you can't see without me flipping the whole thing on its back, which I'm not going to do right now. And let me kill the overheads so you can see that spill really does work nicely. Once I put that decal there, it's really going to be sweet. The little spots, the spots on the for a mass-produced lighting kit, that's not too shabby. It's not you know, it's not what I would do. It's not what I'm going to do on the second one, but by gum, it's pretty good. This looks particularly nice and glowy. I've seen people spend a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money to get an effect that's not any better than that. Cheapest photo etch in the world. All it is a little bit of screen material. Looks good. I may dig out that cap and put it on there just for grins, but you see that this is just a little covered over. I gotta clean that out and it'll be as bright as that. But the lights on the bottoms of the nacelles are here. Again, these are temporary masks. Pull those things off. This was probably one of the neatest areas of the paint scheme. How well those turned out. Yep, boy. Well, got a lot done this week. Didn't quite get finished, and the reason I didn't quite get finished is a good reason. It's because I've been busy putting together template sets for the 1000 scale Enterprise, and also working up the templates for this, because yes, I will be making templates available for this so that you too, your very own, can have your own crazy Klingon quilt o paint. I mean, look at that. That's a quilt o colors there. That's a bird of many colors. And what you see on the bottom that you can hardly tell. There's that blinking yellow light on the bottom, or blinking white light. But that slowed me down while I was doing those things at the same time. So I'll be finished with this first of next week. Like I said, I've got to, there's some seams I want to clean up. I want to put a weathering wash on it. I've got all the little greebly details to go on the front deck there, and decals and a flat coat, and we will be done. And I'll be moving on to something else. Don't know exactly what yet. But having fun this week. So, enough of this. Until next week when we finish this off, be good. Be good to each other. Which is Klingon for be good to each other. And we'll see you here next time.